Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Loadout Pros and Cons for Call of Duty Warzone. And today we'll be covering none other than the dreaded FN Scar, which out of every AR within Warzone is without a doubt my best loadout. With the addition of Warzone bringing with it medium to long range tactics, the FN Scar really begins to shine in this arena. As a result of that, I have been able to get some really high paced victories where I have been comfortable at both range and close quarters, with the Vernetti as my backup. However, it does take a little getting used to, especially regarding the attachments and playstyle. So that is what we will be tackling today. The purpose of this video, other than to help you get more victories within Warzone, is to show you the pros and cons of every loadout, try and help you find your best loadout that works for your playstyle. So, if you would like to see a particular loadout in the next video, let me know by leaving a like in this video and commenting down below which loadout you'd like to see next. Right, enough blabber, let's get a move on and start teaching you everything you need to know regarding the FN Scar, and whether you're a brand new player or an MLG veteran, I hope you leave this video learning something new. To start off, let's begin with the attachments I'm currently using for the FN Scar. For the muzzle, I am using the monolithic suppressor, which increases range by 7% and stops me from showing on the enemy map, limiting the likelihood of being third-partied. For my barrel, I am using the Forged Tack 20-inch. This increases range, damage, and control, making it easier to engage at longer distances. For my optic, I am using the PBX hollow sight, and as always, this attachment is personal preference. For the stock, I am using the XRK Obelisk Pro to gain extra aiming stability. And lastly, I have the Commando foregrip for extra recoil stabilization. The overall goal of this loadout setup is to offer more control over the Scar and to increase its overall effectiveness at range. So, we can move on to the first stage and talk about recoil. When it comes to the FN Scar, it does have a little more recoil when compared to other assault rifles. But while it does have some kick, it also hits like a truck, if you can hit your shots. As you can clearly see on this concrete slab, that the recoil is going up and to the right, with a fair bit of deviation. We can simply counter this by pulling in the opposite direction with your mouse or controller sticks to control your aiming. The pros regarding the recoil of the FN Scar is that the bullet deviation is pretty low to something like the M4 or M13, and is fairly manageable. Cons, unfortunately, is that it does like to bounce about, which could put off some players, but with a little practice, you'll soon be full autoing people 50 to 100 meters away. If this still doesn't work for you, I would always suggest switching to your single fire mode and simply start shooting at range, one round at a time. When you get the hang of this, then consider moving to full auto. With that being said, let us move on to an area where the FN Scar really does shine in Warzone, and that is medium to long range. The Scar's biggest asset is being able to send high damaging rounds downrange quickly. If you have the drop on somebody, there's a fair chance you're going to down them before they even know what's happening. If you compare this with a fast switching secondary such as the Vernetti or the sweaty snake shot Kibbos, you've got yourself the perfect aggressive loadout. This will allow you to push the pace at a variety of ranges and still have the upper hand. The Scar is a rifle that is relatively reliant on high fast bursts of damage, so make sure to hit your shots as you only have 20 rounds. And that brings us on to our next cons of the day, and that is ammo capacity. The FN Scar only has a 20 round magazine, which you can upgrade to 25 and 30. Although in doing this you will be sacrificing mobility and aim down sight speed. With that being said, compared to other ARs that have magazines up to 100 rounds, you will not be dropping stacks of players rapidly, unless you can really hit your shots. This brings us on to our next tip, and that is movement and mentality. With the FN Scar, I would highly suggest playing in areas that have large open areas where you can play to your strengths. It is extremely important that you play to this strength, as I wouldn't recommend going into close quartered areas such as downtown with this thing, as you will simply be shredded by other meta loadouts such as the M4 and MP7. What the FN Scar lacks for in terms of mobility definitely makes up for in damage and range. This loadout is best suited for positioning, catching your enemy off guard, and for downing players before they even know what's hit them. A slow and methodical approach is definitely needed in terms of positioning, so this loadout may work best for players who like to think before jumping into a firefight. So remember, keep your distance and let the Scar's range and damage do the work, take out players in the area quickly, and then move on before you start losing momentum. This brings us on to our next pro for the Scar, and that is damage. While the Scar only has 20 rounds in the magazine, each one of these rounds will deal 35 damage per shot, before dropping to 32 as the range increases. Without armor plates, this takes the Scar a total of 3 to 5 shots down a player. These stats are similar to the AK-47, however the Scar has a higher round per minute count, coming in at 600. Overall, the Scar's damage and time to kill is great, but keep in mind there is a penalty with there only being 20 rounds to send before having to reload, so bear this in mind if you don't want to be left defenseless. In summary for today's video, the pros of the FN Scar are its high damage, its abilities at range, time to kill, and manageable recoil. As for its cons, it sadly lacks the ammo capacity to be effective at taking out clusters of players, slow mobility, and effectiveness in close quarters. With that said, it's definitely a loadout that suits a passive playstyle, and for those kind of players that like to hang back and ambush their opponents. Well guys, that is going to be it for today's episode of Pros and Cons, how to best help you find your best loadout. If you would like to see more of these, be sure to drop this video a like, a dislike if you didn't, and if you're new around here, consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.